Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this narration of The Care and Feeding of Humans, Book 2. It's all about the Lynaeids. If you're new to the story, there is a playlist linked down below. And as always, I hope that you enjoy. When entering into a contract with another species, either as an expedition team or as a trade partner, Lynaeids like to celebrate with a sharing of food. If that food is special to either side, so much the better. The Lynaeids are widely known as a species able to tolerate the widest range of foods. There are rumors that humans are true omnivores, but these rumors will be finally settled in our next book, The Care and Feeding of Humans. To make a review of ontological species studies, all about the Lynaeids, Tea and Sympathy. Published by Glass and Steel, all about the Lynaeids, translation engine 3.1415. Captain Raccoon picked up Fugsy, and one of the trolls started putting manacles on them, one by one. Nerif's mouth went dry. The threat was implicit, though all he did was pet her. Bubsy didn't seem to mind, and rubbed her cheek against Captain Rackham's beard. "Don't be foolish," Captain Rackham said. "I want to get through this without anyone getting hurt. I am having you restrained until we can put this whole episode behind us." Nerif could see the muscle in Nate's jaw working. And for a moment she was afraid the stories were true and that Nate was going to inject acid on everyone. Instead, he just spoke, but his voice was so flat and calm that it made Nerif's mouth go dry. "You're making a mistake," Nate said, "one which you will regret." "I've made many mistakes, my friend," Captain Rackham said. "I hope that this is not one of them." Captain Rackham turned to his crew. "Take them to their cabin and stand guard." The captain looked at the expedition team. "Stand down," he told them. "Bubsy will be with me until this is concluded, and then she'll be returned to you, safe as the day you all came aboard." The crew prepared to take the team to the cabin. The door opened, and Nate took a deep sniff. "That smell!" Just then, Bubsy hissed. Captain Rackham swore and turned to face the door, still holding Bubsy. "Captain Rackham," said the glint as he walked through the door. "Are you prepared to turn over the FTL drive?" "I will kill you," Nate said as the glint turned to face him, amusement clear on his face. "3 humans," he said. "A gift." Nerif didn't miss the short gasp from Zoe, or the small sound from Anand. "The humans are mine," Captain Rackham said. "You get the FTL drive in exchange for my family. I get the humans in place of our lost prophets and cargo." He set Bubsy carefully on the floor and extended his hands in a peaceful gesture. "Everyone wins." He glanced at the expedition team and amended his statement. "Almost everyone wins." The glint nodded. "As you say, then." He made an imperious gesture to someone waiting in the hall, and 6 more glint came into the bay and picked up the FTL drive. Nerif had met glint before, but she'd never noticed their smell before. With 7 glint in the shuttle bay, she was aware of the smell of rotten meat and the sugary sweetness that made her want to throw up. "A damn half deal's locked at the aggregate," Captain Rackham said as the glint started to leave. The leader of the glint stopped, but didn't turn around. "No need to remind me." He made another gesture, and all 3 troll children walked into the bay, holding hands. They might have seemed calm, but Nerif could see the knuckles of the smallest one were white with how hard they were gripping her brother's hand. "I hope you will log this as successfully completed as soon as possible," the glint said as he walked away. The door closed behind him, and the children broke to a run for the captain. He hugged them, assured them that they were all right, and then stood and touched his ear. "Are they gone?" Captain Rackham asked. "Good. Let me know the instant they transition to FTL." He turned and looked at the crew. Dr. Livesey and Rogers were both hugging the children. Nerif noticed. "Everyone out. I have some negotiations to conclude with our expedition team." The children were hustled from the room, and the rest of the crew left. Rogers paused at the door. "Are you sure you've done a cost-benefit analysis on this?" she asked. Captain Rackham nodded irritably. "And logged it. Go. You the children." Captain Rackham turned to the team and bowed. Not the curtly, flashy bow that he had greeted them with when they boarded the ship, but simple bow of apology. I know that I have earned death at your hands. I accept it, but I hope that you will listen to my story, and maybe we can find a negotiation that'll not require my death," Captain Rackham said. "You accepted a deal with the Glint. You gave them an FTL drive that was powerful enough, by your own words, to get them fully accepted back into the aggregate. You threatened Fuzzy. Do you think there is anything you can say to us that'll prevent us from killing you?" asked Zoe. Her voice was tight and she held her chin up, though her hands were still bound behind her. "I did not, he said. He unfastened Quirf and handed him the keys and gestured at the rest of the team. As Quirf released Nate, Nate leapt across the room and in one smooth move seized one of Tariff's knives from his backpack and barreled into the captain, knocking him to the floor. Nate held the knife to the captain's throat. "Give me one reason to not kill you." "Revenge," Captain Rackham said, still lying. "Revenge against the Glint." "Nate," Tariff said, "I really like that knife. I won't be able to use it again if you get the captain's death on it." Nate pulled the knife away from the captain's throat and stood up. He turned back to Tariff and handed him the knife. "Surprise," Nate said. "I saved your knives for you." "Thank you," Tariff said gravely. The captain stood up and said, "Will you hear my negotiation?" Nate looked at each person and read their faces and turned back to the captain. We'll still probably kill you when you're done. First, I have not lied to you, though I have not always been completely forthcoming." Alan muttered, "I think we figured that out." Captain Rackham didn't hear Alan, or pretended not to. "My friend Steve actually invented the technology that would allow an FTL ship to land on a planet years ago. He sold it to me, and I have found it very useful in certain situations for our business." Alan snorted, "I'll bet." "I don't think Steve knew that he was working for the Glint. I think that he was offered a position where he could invent new technology, and he didn't stop to look at who was paying for it. I'm sure that once he found out it was the Glint, that's when he stole it and ran. The Glint approached me. I assumed they knew about our past relations. Of course, I turned them down. Then, what is the expression? Made me an offer that I couldn't refuse. They kidnapped 3 of our children." Captain's tone was even, but Nerv could see the hard look in his eye. He might be playing it calm and relaxed, but his eyes revealed his true feelings. "They proposed a deal. They get Steve's FTL drive and I get our children back. They were even agreeable to lock it with the aggregate, leaving out the details of the kidnapped children, of course." The captain looked down at his hands, which had been tightened into fists. He consciously flexed them and then looked up again. "I would have done anything to save the children. I hired you. I hoped that I would be able to tell you the true nature of what was happening once we entered FTL. What I hadn't expected was a note that I received the morning after we entered FTL. The Glint had an agent on my ship. I don't know who it was. I didn't know how to warn you of the danger that we were in without giving you details that might violate the terms of my contract with the Glint. I had one of my crew break into your cabin in such a way as to be caught by you, so that you could figure out that we had a mole. I didn't tell you, and so didn't violate the terms of our contract." Bubsy walked over to the captain and rubbed her face just above his knee. The captain looked surprised. "My lady, I do believe you've grown bigger during our acquaintance." "How did logging the deal with the aggregate help you?" Zoe asked. Before the captain could respond, Curve said, "It is the ultimate trust creator. The captain knows that he and his family and crew won't be killed as soon as the deal is done. If he doesn't log the completion of the deal with the aggregate, they will take it to mean that the Glint violated the terms of the contract. They are already in deep water with the aggregate. Violating the contract would heavily prejudice any attempt by the Glint to rejoin, especially if the contract was in relation to the very thing the Glint were trying to use as a way to get back in." "Doesn't it leave, I don't know, a paper trail showing the Glint kidnapped children to force this negotiation?" Alan asked. Captain Rackham shook his head. "The kidnapping is our words against theirs. We have no proof. So, now they just show up with a new FTL drive and get back into the aggregate," Nate said bitterly. "Well, Captain Rackham said with a smile, they won't actually be able to do that. You see, I had several members of my family register our FTL drive with the aggregate. Plus, we have Steve's notes and documentation given to us. What's the word? Provenance, Zoe said. You establish provenance for your ownership of the device. She sounded a little stunned. Just so, agreed the captain. When the Glint try to log it with the aggregate in the next day or two, they'll be arrested for attempting to steal ownership of our property. I had you locked up before Adam showed because I was afraid that you'd kill him before completing our deal by returning the children. I've held Flubsy because I wasn't sure how she would react when she saw a Glint, and I let her go after I was sure she wouldn't go near him and be accidentally hurt. I implied to him that I would be using your adrenaline for a drug trade to compensate for our lost cargo. This let them think that trying to take away from me would lead to grievance before the aggregate. Harvesting adrenaline from humans isn't illegal unless it's done without their knowledge and permission. So, Captain Rackham tipped his head to Zoe. To answer your objections, I did enter into a deal with the Glint to save my children. Giving them the FTL drive will not give them a path back into the aggregate. I did not threaten Trubsy, and I never will. I would like to propose a new contract. Join my crew, at least long enough for us to exact revenge on the Glint. They should never be allowed to think of using children as coin again. Zoe glanced at each team member. We'll need to discuss this overnight. We'll have an answer for you in the morning. But one question, who damaged our weapons? The captain shrugged. I haven't caught the real mole. I assume that he was the one that did that. Nerif saw doubt in Zoe's face, and evidently the captain saw it too. I've been honest with you as I could to save the lives of my children, except for this one thing. He pulled out a book that he'd been reading during the game of Truth or Embarrassing Action. It's not porn, he said. It's a book I'd been reading to our children before they were kidnapped. He set the book down so that they could read the title. Treasure Island. End of chapter. Just a quick shout out to the T5 peeps. Bob the Dragon, Cat Crab Lobster, Data Magnet, Dark Machine, Bezic, Try Again 95, Pudic Yol, Astrea the Dreamer, Casper Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Ithilia, Meridian 117, and Jordan Bucksmorm. Thank you very much. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed. There are links down below, both to support this channel and for the author of this fiction. Anyways, I hope you all have a fantastic one, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.